Kevin Stefanski's future is pretty much guaranteed, bro. He finna be up out of there. Joe Flacco wasted no time getting it in on his former head coach. Guys, bro, I see why Mike Tomlin said what he said before the game. Because if you guys haven't heard, the Cincinnati Bengals put the beats on the Pittsburgh Steelers, bro. Joe Flacco threw for over 200 yards, no picks. Man, Joe Flacco looked like he could win the MVP quarterback, bro. I ain't lying, bro. He looked like MVP caliber performance, dog. What Joe Flacco did, legendary. I ain't lying. Kevin Stefanski is in the hot seat, man. We got fans pulling up receipts. We got members of the media pretty much saying him and Andrew Berry.
Breaking news out of Cleveland, and this one hits with real weight. Joe Flacco, the league's ultimate comeback veteran, just tore into Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff in a way nobody saw coming. The man who usually treats chaos like background noise finally lost his cool, and you can feel the shockwaves from the locker room to the front office. Something inside that building clearly pushed him past his limit. This wasn't frustration. This was a veteran quarterback sending a message, and now the entire city is asking the same thing. Did the Browns actually manage to push one of the calmest players in the NFL straight to his boiling point? Buckle up. This situation isn't just heated. It's on the verge of becoming a full-blown storyline.
Here, when did you realize that you could have this successful of an offensive game like this quickly?
You're not thinking about it in that sense. I mean, I think you're always like wanting to go do that, but I think what being here in this situation has done for me is it allows you to recalibrate and not worry about those things. It allows you to just focus on the basics, and it's a good reminder that doing that is what leads to success and consistency. So I think the bigger thing going forward is just continuing to remind myself of that.
Oh, Cleveland, the home of big dreams, wild optimism, and more quarterback experiments than any franchise should legally attempt. It's the place where hope fades, regroups, signs a short-term deal, and somehow convinces everyone to try this whole thing one more time. And just when you think the turbulence can't possibly get any worse, Joe Flacco, yes, that Joe Flacco strolls back into the building and lights up the entire operation like it's his own 4th of July display. The timing, the drama, the irony, it's almost poetic.
How could you do that, Andrew? How could you do it? Why on earth did you feel the need to trade this guy to a division opponent for a 5th-round draft pick? Fireable offense. That is a fireable offense. I want to know how much longer the owner's going to watch this crap, because the fans have had it. We deserve better. You worried more about your stadium than you are your football team. That's the perception, Jimmy.
The Browns spent years hunting for a franchise savior, shelled out nearly $500 million on a quarterback who still feels like he's stuck in a loading screen, and then watched the guy they practically shipped out for spare parts return and expose every flaw in their operation. Because Joe Flacco didn't just win, he made the Browns look outmatched from a distance. He embarrassed the organization without even putting their jersey back on. A reminder of just how far their decisions have set them back.
Joe Flacco just exposed Kevin Stefanski, showing us everything wrong with the Browns offense. And after hearing this, it's clear Shedeur Sanders need to be traded. Joe Flacco just exposed Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns offense. Joe Flacco threw for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns on 47 attempts and 31 completions. Cleveland, did you get rid of Joe too? Cleveland, did you get rid of old Joe too soon? I don't know the best way to explain it, but it seems like every quarterback that leaves Cleveland, if they was in that horrible organization, then they left them, they on a different path to where they about to become a superstar again. In this case, Baker.
He reminded everyone that experience, composure, and a quarterback who can actually process the field still matter. A concept Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry must have glossed over somewhere in that team-building PowerPoint deck. Flacco walked out there looking like an MVP from a different football era. He stacked over 200 yards with effortless pocket control, crisp timing, and pinpoint accuracy. And every snap carried the same message. Remember who I am. I was carving up defenses long before half this league even had stable Wi-Fi.
This win meant teammates who've gone through that.
Oh, for sure. That was an awesome sideline, an awesome locker room after the game. But at the same time, you got to give those guys a lot of credit. Like, it's not easy to lose 4 straight games and keep your head into it. So the fact that they've been able to do this and get to the point where we got tonight and beat a good football team is also impressive.
Along those lines, Joe, it's 1 win, but given the fact that against that defense in this environment, you see the potential of what this team, especially offensively, is capable of.
Yeah, you sure hope so. You hope you can come in here and play well. And you always want to, like, especially when you get guys that are good at playing football, you want to go show them, like, hey, man, like, we're going to be able to.
The guy is basically a football fossil at this point, yet he's out there shredding defenses like he's grinding through a video game level. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, Stefanski's headset might as well have been tuned to smooth jazz. The Browns' offense looked like it was being piloted by a lost Roomba, spinning, redirecting, crashing into the same problems over and over. You could see it written on the fans' faces. Disbelief mixed with resignation. They weren't just watching Flacco thrive, they were watching their own organization's shortcomings broadcast in crystal clear HD. And the irony? Flacco didn't need a victory speech. He just stood there with the calm, patient energy of a dad who warned everyone not to touch the thermostat, and now the house is somehow burning down. When he mentioned broken plays turning into touchdowns, you could almost picture the entire Browns coaching staff scrambling to look up broken play efficiency like it was a new analytics term they'd never heard before.
Allow these people to do this? You have the worst offense in the league. Your GM screwed this quarterback thing up like I've never seen in my life. I've never seen anything like it. Kids that play Madden could have done a better job. Truly, that's not hyperbole. It's a joke. It's a joke. This franchise has become a joke.
You could almost feel the ghosts of Browns quarterbacks past applauding somewhere. Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, even the poor guy who got 1 start and then vanished like he entered witness protection. All of them watching and thinking, that could have been me if the organization had even a breadcrumb of direction. And now Kevin Stefanski is back in the hot seat, keeping Cleveland's favorite offseason tradition alive. New year, same tension, same coach wearing that 1,000-yard stare that basically says, if I don't move, maybe they'll blame the equipment manager. Fans are dragging out receipts like it's tax season. Every bad call, every wasted possession, every game plan that looked like it was sketched with crayons during recess. They're saying even kids who grind Madden could run this offense better, and honestly, it's hard to argue. At least Madden players remember to manage the clock. Meanwhile, the Browns front office is getting roasted like it's comedy night. Andrew Berry has gone completely silent. No pressers, no quotes, no anything. The man vanished faster than a Browns playoff lead.
You're down there looking like an MVP for the Bucks. And Joe Flacco ain't even left Cleveland for a full 2 weeks. And he already done threw for more yards and touchdowns than he did in Cleveland. Come on now, what's going on? I think Mike Tomlin was right. Maybe Andrew Berry's smarter than all of us. He don't know why the Browns traded Joe Flacco, a veteran, to a division rival that they gotta play again, and Mike Tomlin knew they gonna have to play Cincinnati against Joe Flacco. But Joe still didn't know the plays, and he beat a Steelers team that demolished the Cleveland with Dillon Gabriel.
The fans are looking around wondering, did we actually trade away the only quarterback who knew what he was doing? And it's not even about the final score, it's about what that one performance exposed. The Bengals, led by the guy the Browns brushed off, walked in and put on a clinic that stats can't fully capture. The gap in composure, confidence, and leadership was glaring. Flacco looked like he'd been captaining that offense for years, while Cleveland looked like a group project where nobody bothered to read the assignment. You can't script this. Cleveland moves on from Joe Flacco, watches him dismantle a division rival, and then spends the next 2 days pretending it all fits into some grand rebuilding blueprint. The Browns' quarterback room has churned more than a bakery mixer, and while the fan base is losing its collective mind, Kevin Stefanski is left trying to explain the situation like someone unraveling a group chat disaster. Every time he talks, it feels like another post-game TED Talk on how to misuse talent. And the worst part? He keeps insisting the system works. That's become the Browns' unofficial motto: trust the process. The issue is, the process keeps putting its trust in the wrong people.
He makes those decisions. I trust AD. We talk about every decision we make. wanted Joe. They made the phone call. Obviously, it gives Joe an opportunity to go play again. So, I trust in obviously it's a young room, but I believe in those guys that they're all working very hard. Obviously, Bailey's the elder statesman right now, but Sean's in there, to provide great insight to the young guys. And, I trust in Coach Musgrave, Coach Reese. First, I'd tell you is the Joe trade took us by surprise. That was not something that we saw coming. They called us, and that's happened.
The fans are worn down. They've lived this storyline too many times, and it always ends the same way. Heartbreak, memes, and press conferences that sound like scripted apologies dressed up as optimism. At this point, Cleveland deserves some kind of emotional reimbursement. You can practically picture the fan base forming a weekly support circle. Hi, I'm Dave, and I believed in Kevin Stefanski. Because somehow, Cleveland always finds a new way to unravel. And this time, the unraveling came courtesy of a quarterback they assumed was finished. Flacco, meanwhile, is out there looking unbothered and borderline amused. He's turning broken plays into highlight clips, laughing about his coach's accent, and syncing with his receivers like they've been running reps since homeroom. That's how the game is supposed to look. Meanwhile, the Browns are still in the lab trying to reinvent the wheel, except their version is square, flimsy, and barely turns. And now the frustration is climbing higher up the ladder. Fans are setting their sights on ownership again, with Jimmy Haslam, the man who collects coaches like trading cards, right back in the crosshairs.
Just blame Andrew Berry. How dare I just blame Kevin Stefanski? No, it's all there for you. Daryl, so what did you think watching last night's game?
Well, I think it's certainly an indictment of the state of affairs with the Browns right now, because we had all assumed that Joe Flacco was washed up and he couldn't do it anymore. And then he goes out and does that on national television, beats the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we certainly now understand why Mike Tomlin was furious that Andrew Berry basically gave Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals. But the Browns organization looks like a bunch of stooges this morning, which they are.
People are starting to say Jimmy Haslam cares more about stadium upgrades than actually building a roster that can function. They're calling the franchise a joke. And honestly, that might be the nicest version of the critique. Right now, Cleveland looks like a full-blown circus, and not even the entertaining kind. This is the circus with busted rides, confused clowns, and a popcorn machine that won't stop catching fire. Every analyst on TV is echoing the same question. How does a team with this much talent keep tripping over its own shoelaces? And how does the quarterback they shipped out the door look more composed than the entire roster combined? The answer is painfully simple: bad leadership. Flacco's command of the offense looked smooth, almost effortless. You saw it in his eyes. He was calm, confident, and savoring the chance to prove the entire league wrong. That kind of presence spreads fast. His teammates were feeding off it. The sideline had real juice, and momentum followed. Across the field, the Browns felt rigid, disconnected, frustrated. You could practically hear the collective question echoing through their helmets. Why can't we play like that?
Andrew Berry trade Joe Flacco to force Kevin Stefanski to move Shedeur up the depth chart. Now, obviously, turning a 6th-round pick into a 5th-round pick was the result of that deal, and that's cool. That's great. That's a good outcome. But was there also another benefit of the trade from Andrew Berry's perspective? So that strategy, that tactic, if the coach of the team, and this was the Oakland Athletics at the time, the baseball team, but this happened before. If the coach of the team is unwilling to play a player that you, meaning you, Paul DePodesta, or the GM, the front office, whatever.
The truth hits hard. Cleveland has been overcomplicating football for years, chasing the flashy schemes, the trendy analytics, the next-gen buzzwords that look great on a whiteboard but fall apart on Sundays. But the game isn't run by algorithms. It's driven by instincts, leadership, and execution. Flacco reminded them of that in the most ruthless reality check kind of way. And then after the game, he turned reflective, talking about his family, his kids, and the grind of perseverance, while Kevin Stefanski is probably somewhere trying to explain to ownership how his elite offensive structure keeps topping out at 17 points. You could almost feel the universe smirking. Cleveland acted like they'd traded away a lawn chair. Now the joke's on them. The local media is in full meltdown. Radio hosts are spiraling, fans are tossing jerseys, and social media looks like a group therapy session that ended badly. The frustration isn't just about the loss, it's about the manner of it, because nothing cuts deeper than getting exposed by the very decision you thought would save you.
In the room look like they're the dumbest. Kevin Stefanski is going to have to answer for why that happened last night, and we're stuck watching a team that can't score more than 17 points in a game with him calling plays on the sideline, putting game plans together. Andrew Berry needs to get his butt front and center and start answering some questions. I've never heard of a GM being completely inaccessible after trading a week 1 starting quarterback and also trading your...
Which is the funniest part, because this is the same front office that spends every draft week preaching about their vision for the future. Well, where's that vision now? Probably hiding in a supply closet hoping nobody asks follow-up questions. Andrew Berry is supposed to be the architect of this entire roster, but at this point, the blueprints look upside down. And if he's not careful, his seat might end up right next to Kevin Stefanski's on the chopping block. Fans aren't clueless. They know the GM buys the ingredients, and if the meal tastes awful, you don't just blame the guy cooking, and that's the narrative taking over Cleveland. If one goes, both go. A 2-for-1 clearance deal on leadership. Only the Browns could turn a single quarterback departure into a full-scale organizational crisis. It's almost poetic. The franchise known for quarterback chaos gets humbled by the one veteran they waved off without a second thought. The football gods have a dark sense of humor. No gimmicks, no overthinking, just clean, instinctive football. Flacco even joked that half the successful plays were miscommunications, and somehow those ended up working better than the scripted stuff. You can't invent a story like this. Cleveland is out here grinding through full practices and detailed installs, while Flacco is freelancing like it's backyard ball, and still winning.
Playing a player that you want the coach to play, then you simply trade away whoever he is playing, and you leave the coach with no choice but to play the player that you want. They did this in Oakland. Case in point in this situation with the Browns, Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders. So Dillon Gabriel had already been named the starter, obviously ahead of the Minnesota game in London last week. And if we go back, we remember that there have been reports that Dillon Gabriel in the draft was Kevin Stefanski's pick. He was a Kevin Stefanski. That was Kevin's guy.
That's the kind of thing that keeps coaches staring at the ceiling all night. And make no mistake, the locker room feels it. Players aren't clueless. They know when the gears aren't turning. They can spot who's prepared and who's just trying to look the part. You can sense when the energy shifts. And right now, the Browns locker room feels like a countdown clock waiting to go off. Because once players stop trusting the coaching staff, everything starts to slip. The veterans quietly detach, the young guys start freelancing, and suddenly the entire roster is coloring outside the lines while the head coach stands there clutching a clipboard like it's a consolation prize. That's the part that sticks. This wasn't just a tough loss. It was a bruise that's going to linger all season. And now comes the predictable soundtrack. Execution, details, one game at a time. The same recycled talking points fans have heard for years. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco will go right back to doing what he's done his entire career, proving people wrong without breaking a sweat. He's calm, confident, and clearly enjoying every second while everyone else spirals around him. Honestly, it's kind of beautiful.
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feeling.
Because in the end, this story isn't really about one quarterback lighting up his former team. It's about karma doing what it always does in football. It's about the game rewarding resilience and humbling the people who get a little too comfortable. Cleveland thought they were done with Joe Flacco. Turns out Joe Flacco wasn't even close to being done with them. He walked back into the division, delivered a masterclass in poise and timing, and left the entire organization staring in the mirror wondering how they misread the situation this badly. That's the thing about this sport. The toughest hits don't always happen between the hashes. Sometimes they land in the meeting rooms, when decision makers realize the guy they dismissed just made them look unprepared on national television. So here's the real takeaway for Cleveland. Maybe don't give away competence like it's a clearance item, because Flacco didn't just beat them, he exposed every weakness they've been trying to hide. He walked away with a win, a grin, and the satisfaction of turning doubters into believers all over again. And somewhere, faint but familiar, you can hear Browns fans echoing the same line they've been reciting for generations. Maybe next year. But next year won't mean a thing if they keep letting Joe Flacco show up as the ghost of football past. If you've been riding through this saga with me, drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps more than you think.